The 2-8 Cleveland Browns play the 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers on a short week. What's the worst that could happen? To be honest, I don't think I want to know. Going to make this a slightly quicker preview. The Browns are on a short week and so am I, but at the end of the day, this Thursday's opponent needs no introduction. In my opinion, the best rivalry in football. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate them, you hate them, even my dog hates them. I'll spend more time on the review of this game, but as far as the preview, I don't need to remind you guys what this game means. In a year that I boldly predicted the Steelers would have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin, they have a chance to once again secure another winning season with a win against the Browns on Thursday Night Football this week. It makes me feel physically sick. I've been waiting for this team to fall off for what feels like my entire life now, and they never do. And, every damn year, I would say you have to respect it, but, it's the Steelers and I refuse to give them an ounce of any of my respect. So the Browns come into this game with one of the worst offenses in the NFL and are up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. This Steelers defense is legit. It's one of the best defenses that I've seen them, in kind of like the last few years, which is saying something, given the defenses they've had over there in that period. But as I mentioned, the Steelers offense hasn't been great by any means, and they aren't going to blow you away, which is kind of shown with 5 of their 8 wins this year coming in one-score games. But this is going to be an incredibly tough game. I'll be honest, I'm not exactly feeling too confident, but it's a rivalry game. It's the Steelers, so who knows what could happen. And, the Browns don't inspire much hope for this game after coming off an embarrassing blowout loss against the Saints, and, a game in which they essentially look like they just quit on themselves. And if that same team shows up on Thursday, then, this game is going to just go exactly the same as that Saints game. And the Browns have to somehow find a way of getting motivated and turning up for this game. And you'd like to think that that should come pretty easy given the opponent this week. But in the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure everyone's seen the reports, with some people writing that Kevin Stefanski could be fired if the Browns lose this game. And, it might be worth noting that before Freddie Kitchens, the previous 6 Browns head coaches were sacked after a loss against the Steelers. So, but, I personally don't think that would be the case. I'm obviously not a big Jimmy guy, but I don't think he's quite that stupid. And this was always going to be the story if the Browns underachieved this year when they brought Mike Vrabel in. So, I just personally don't see the point in replacing Kevin with Vrabel at this point. And if I'm honest, I don't even think Vrabel would personally be interested in it either. So, there's not really much benefit from him being an interim head coach for 6 games. And when the Browns would still have to go through a coaching hire and coaching search, process this offseason regardless, it just seems like a pretty pointless exercise. And I'm assuming everyone in the building would also, view it as such as well. So, but if I'm honest, I don't really care about all of that right now. And, all I care about this week is beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the injury report for this week is always kind of a, odd injury report when it's a short week. You only get 2 games of practice. So the Browns, as always, had a lot of guys on this injury report, but only had 2 designations for this game. Tight end Jeff Swaim is out with a concussion, and Jed Wills is out for this game with a knee injury. And then for the Steelers, had a few guys on the injury report. Najee Harris popped up on this injury report, but he's good to go. TJ Watt was on here, Cameron Hayward, but in the end, they're all good to go for this game. And the 2 players out for the Steelers this week is Corey Trice Jr., the cornerback, is out with a hamstring injury. And Alex Highsmith, as expected, is out with an ankle injury. That's a big loss for them. I've made it known how high I am on Alex Highsmith and how I think he's very important to that Steelers defense, and I don't think TJ Watt would be quite the player that he is, if it wasn't playing next to Alex Highsmith. So big loss for the Steelers and something that hopefully the Browns can take advantage of. As I do every week, my 3 keys to victory for this game. My number 1 key to victory this week is to protect the football and win the turnover battle. The Steelers are tied for the 3rd most takeaways in the NFL this year with 19 and ranked 2nd in turnover differential at plus 11. The Steelers defense does a pretty good job at forcing turnovers, and their offense does a good job at protecting the football, with only 8 giveaways on the year. It's how they win football games, and it's how they're 8-2 despite only scoring 21 total touchdowns on offense, and that ranks 24th in the NFL. On the flip side, the Browns have the 3rd worst turnover differential in the NFL with -5, which is obviously mostly down to them, having the 2nd least amount of takeaways this year with only 7, and that includes the 2 that they had against the Saints last Sunday. So they've been slightly better at protecting the football than they have been taking away the football this year, but they are still tied for the 7th most giveaways in the NFL with 12. So as I mentioned earlier, the Steelers have won 5 of their 8 games by 1 score, and I mean, Dan, they've won 2 games this year without even scoring a touchdown. So that's just the 2nd team to do that in the NFL in the last 20 years. And as good as this team has been, they have kept teams close, through their own kind of lack of offensive output, and the Browns' offense has to protect the football in this game and take advantage of the opportunities that the Steelers, will end up giving them, and they need to sustain multiple scoring drives as well as not give, this limited Steelers offense short fields, which is only going to happen if they play clean football, across all 3 phases. If they can play clean football and, as well as put our offense in good positions to score points by forcing a few turnovers against a team that, to be honest, won't give you any easy takeaways. But, if they can do that, then, the Browns will be able to stay in this game and give themselves a good chance to win. My 2nd key to victory this week, one that's popped up a few times, is to limit big plays. Across the Chargers and Saints losses, the Browns allowed 3 65-plus yard touchdowns, and the Browns gave up 9 touchdowns on 307 yards in those 2 games, which is pretty mad, and it's for an average of 34 yards per touchdown, which is pretty unacceptable. And I don't think I've ever seen a team allow so many big plays just go for touchdowns in a 2-game span. So whether it's been a result of missed tackling or blown coverage, it truly has been pretty insane to witness. And the Steelers ranked 28th in the NFL in passing yards per game, and as I mentioned earlier, they only have 11 passing touchdowns through 10 games. So they do boast a run game that ranks 8th in the NFL in rush yards a game, but that is a slight concern, and given the Browns haven't just allowed big plays in the passing game, but also in the run game as well. But they have only scored 9 rushing touchdowns and on the year, and they rank 24th in total yards per play. I say only 9 rushing touchdowns. The Browns only have 3 this year, but hopefully you understand the point I'm trying to make. But this isn't an explosive offense, but big plays can still happen if you don't play consistent and sound defense. And just look at the game-winning touchdown the Steelers scored against the Commanders 2 weeks ago. That was a 30-plus yards pass touchdown to Mike Williams over the top. The corner just got beat and they had no safety help, and the Steelers won that game because of it. So the Browns defense has to put an end to what has been just a complete clown show, to be honest, in regards to allowing big plays in the last few weeks, and they need to make this Steelers offense work for their yards. Because, at the end of the day, I can deal with getting beat because the opposition's offense was able to maintain drives and play good football. But I can't deal with, losing because you're just giving up easy yards and blowing coverages and missing tackles. Got a lock in this week. You'd hope that despite being 2-8, just playing the Steelers should be enough of an encouragement for this defense to play inspired and, as I said, put an end to what has just been an embarrassment of big plays allowed over the last few weeks. And my 3rd and final key to victory this week, Dustin Hopkins has to put an end to his nightmare run on the season. With this being a short week, the image of Dustin Hopkins missing 3 consecutive field goals is still pretty fresh in the minds of fans, and I'm pretty sure it's going to still be fresh in Hopkins' mind as well. So, he needs to be able to block that out this week and return to somewhat of the form that we saw from him last year. He really does have to. And as I mentioned earlier, the Steelers have won 2 games this year when they haven't scored a offensive, defensive, or special teams touchdown, 0. And how may you ask? Well, Chris Boswell making all 6 of his kicks, for 18 points in both of those games certainly helped play a huge role. The Steelers, will keep teams in games this year, and they have done. They probably will continue to do so. This is the way that they seem to play. And you look at last week, Lamar Jackson had his worst game of the season, and the Ravens had a chance to tie that game, with a 2-point conversion attempt at the end, and they've won their previous 2 games with a combined margin of victory of 3 points. So as bad as the Browns have been this year, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this is a close back and forth game. And if it is so, then it's most likely going to come down to field position and field goals. So on one side you've got Chris Boswell, who's only missed 3 field goals in the last 61 attempts, and on the other side you've got Dustin Hopkins, who missed three field goals in 20 minutes. So before anyone mentions, by the way, I know it was technically 2 field goals, but I don't care. I'm counting it as 3. But the Browns aren't going to blow this Steelers team out. I think we all know that. Not with how bad their offense is, not with how good this Steelers defense is. It's going to be a close game, and if the Browns are going to come out with a win, Hopkins' nightmare season just cannot continue, and we're going to need a big game out of the kicker that pretty much won us quite a lot of games last year. I don't think many fans are holding their breath for this game. The Steelers are the favourites, obviously, and I'm sure 99% of people are, expecting the Steelers to give the Browns their 9th loss on Thursday, and I don't blame them. I mean, they are right to think that. The Browns have given no reason for anyone to believe in them this season, but I'll be damned if you think I'm going to sit here and play victim when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Screw that. If the Browns went 2-15 on any season, those 2 wins better be against the Steelers. I don't care how bad we are. Beating the Steelers, solves everything, at least for a couple of days. And if the choice was to get a number 1 pick at the end of the season or beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to pick to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day of the week. I hate this team. This franchise hates this team. Put everything that's gone wrong this year aside. We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're wearing orange pants. The only thing that matters is sending Steelers fans and their stupid yellow tails home with a loss. I don't care how we do it, just do it. But that will do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, then please drop this video a like, hit the subscribe button. It's free and it really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can connect and interact with me on social media. I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and as I always say, even if I only get to talk to 1 Browns fan a day, I'm happy because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Thanks again, guys. Have an amazing week, and most importantly, go Browns.